A Chinese expert predicts Wuhan will be ready to be removed from lockdown soon, but state media quote another expert warning of the opposite. We bring you an exclusive interview explaining how Taiwan has fared better than most in dealing with the coronavirus outbreak. In a matter of days, Germany has become one of the worst hit countries of the virus. One state hit particularly hard. What relations does the state have with China, and what is its role in this epidemic? In the US, President Trump invokes a wartime measure to increase production of supplies needed to combat the coronavirus.
Welcome to China in Focus. I'm your host, Tiffany Meyer. Today at a White House briefing, President Trump insisted on calling the new coronavirus the Chinese virus. When asked why he does that, the president said because it comes from China.
That's why. It comes from China. I want to be accurate.
At NTD, we prefer CCP virus, short for Chinese Communist Party virus. This is because the Chinese Communist Party's coverup and mismanagement allow the virus to spread throughout China and create a global pandemic. We like to make a distinction between the Chinese Communist government and the people of China, who are also the victims of the communist regime and the virus. Under the CCP, doctors were silenced or arrested, reporting delayed, numbers covered up, and journalists expelled. National Security Advisor Robert O'Brien says it probably cost the world 2 months to prepare. And now, as the global cases pass 200,000, countries with close ties to the Chinese regime are suffering the most losses. Italy was the first and only G7 country to sign on to China's One Belt, One Road initiative. Iran also had a comprehensive strategic partnership with China. And Germany's hardest hit state houses a sister city of Wuhan. And new evidence of the Chinese regime issuing false information on the coronavirus. Taiwan's Ministry of Justice Investigation Bureau issued a warning on March 18th of the disinformation surrounding the Wuhan virus. This after they pointed out 271 cases on file for investigation. Out of those 271, 70% came from the communist regime's cyber attacks. At a press conference on the 18th, the Bureau's director of the Center for Preventing Fake Information, Zhang Youren, he said the peak of false information attacks began in late February this year, and that it happened because of the Chinese regime's dissatisfaction with Taiwan stopping its mask exports. And he added that it was intended to create panic. While many airports around the world are seeing record low numbers of travelers, Beijing's airport is overcrowded. This after the regime's media reports on March 17th, convincing overseas Chinese that the mainland is the safest place is taking effect. Since then, direct flights back to the mainland from Europe and America have been sold out. At present, Beijing's airport is overcrowded. Lawyers in China tell us the two main reasons. The first reason is the communist regime's far-reaching propaganda arm, which controls media across the whole country and even most of the Chinese-language media in foreign countries. One lawyer pointed out many Chinese-born people living abroad think China is the safest, saying even though they are abroad and have access to a wide range of information, many only read Chinese state-run media and believe everything they read because they grew up immersed in Communist Party culture. On the other hand, Communist Party members' children are not returning home because their parents have access to internal information and know better. And in efforts to combat the spread of the CCP virus, the U.S. and Taiwan are expanding their cooperation to jointly develop tests, treatments, vaccines, and more. Taiwan's President Tsai Ing-wen wrote on Twitter, "Our countries are not only partners in prosperity, we are partners through adversity and partners with integrity." In an exclusive interview with the German Epoch Times, Taiwan's representative to Germany spoke about why the island nation fared much better amid the outbreak.
Taiwan's handling of the coronavirus has stunned some experts. So far, it only has 100 cases and 1 death, despite being in close proximity to the mainland and millions of Taiwanese travel to and from China each year. Plus, Taiwan has been excluded from almost all international organizations, including the WHO, due to pressure from Beijing. Taiwan's representative to Germany, Jai Weixie, said being left out has actually made them stronger in this crisis.
This exclusion has taught us, and this is saving lives, that we need to rely on ourselves first and foremost.
Mr. Xie said Taiwan learned the hard way how to deal with the Chinese Communist Party, CCP, during an epidemic. During the SARS outbreak in 2002 and 2003, Beijing blocked the WHO from assisting Taiwan, and the CCP gave Taiwan incorrect information on the outbreak. This cost 73 Taiwanese lives. He said in an authoritarian system, truth can be manipulated.
Any information you get from Beijing must be verified before you can say it is true or not true. This is an authoritarian, if not dictatorial system, and it is characteristic of such a regime that stability goes before truth.
Taiwan early on sent a medical team to Wuhan for fact-finding. While the CCP said then there's no human-to-human transmission, Taiwan didn't buy it and started preparing for an epidemic. As their first country, Taiwan controlled all flights from Wuhan, tracking each passenger and testing for the virus. Plus, it ensured the country has the protective gear it needs by issuing an export stop and ramping up production.
Always be on your guard. According to a Chinese saying, this means that the definition of danger is broad, very broad.
As much of the world is on lockdown to contain the CCP virus, daily life in Taiwan continues almost as normal, with hardly any restrictions. However, the island nation stays alert after a recent spike in infections. Since almost all are imported cases, Wednesday, Taiwan banned entry to almost all foreigners. Reporting by Eric Roosh, Epoch Times Germany, and Christian Watson, NTD News.
In a matter of days, Germany has become one of the worst-hit countries of the virus originating from China, commonly known as the novel coronavirus. The number of infected cases has grown to over 10,000, surpassing some of the first countries with high concentrations of the virus, like South Korea. NTD's Penny Zhou has more.
If we do not manage to reduce contacts among people effectively and sustainably over a period of several weeks, it is possible that we will have up to 10 million infected people in Germany in 2 to 3 months.
In Germany, the western state of North Rhine-Westphalia, or NRW, is the most severely affected. Over a third of all German cases are there. NRW is the most populous state in Germany. It also has close ties with the Chinese regime. The state is home to the largest inland port in the world, Duisburg Port. The port is a key participant in the Chinese regime's Belt and Road Initiative, China's state-backed campaign for global dominance. China's influence there is deep. The city's mayor once called it Germany's China City. Duisburg is a sister city of Wuhan, where the epidemic started. It was the first German city to form such a relationship with China way back in 1982. In this 2017 interview with Chinese state media, the mayor of Duisburg said the two cities were still closely connected.
Economic relations, political and friendly communications.
The local government was also trying to strengthen relations with China.
We have close cooperation with the Confucius Institute and universities. We provide commercial buildings for Chinese enterprises to settle in Duisburg.
Attracting Chinese investment was an economic priority.
Our next plan is to open a Chinese business center in Duisburg.
Economic ties grew fast. By 2019, over 1,000 Chinese companies set up businesses in NRW. Meanwhile, over 1,000 NRW companies entered mainland China. As part of the Belt and Road Initiative, China lent money to Duisburg and helped build railways that directly connect the city to China. Every week before the virus pandemic, nearly 40 trains carrying goods from Chinese cities from Wuhan and Chongqing arrived in Duisburg.
All trains setting out from China, whether they're heading to England or Spain, would pass by Duisburg.
In 2018, the city of Duisburg signed a smart city partnership with telecom giant Huawei. The city allowed the Chinese military-linked company to build its Wi-Fi network, traffic management, and e-government cloud solutions, ignoring concerns it was handing over public data to a company backed by a totalitarian regime. But now the CCP virus is showing Belt and Road countries the danger of relying on the Chinese regime. According to a Reuters report, the Duisburg port said the virus had already led to a significant drop in their trading volumes. The state of NRW now has over 4,000 cases of the virus. Penny Zhou, NTD News.
The leader of the Chinese Communist Party is ordering Wuhan to go back to work. An expert also predicts the city will soon see 0 infections, but the state mouthpiece says worrying signs are emerging there. NTD's Juliet Song reports.
Chinese officials are under pressure to get things back to normal since the nation's economy went into record decline, feeling the effects of the coronavirus outbreak. Chinese leader Xi Jinping is ordering companies and factories in Wuhan to resume work gradually, and other areas in Hubei province to remove lockdown in an orderly fashion. A day before his speech, a top Chinese epidemiologist predicted that new infections in Wuhan will soon drop to zero. In an interview with state media, Li Lanjuan said if Wuhan is cleared of new infections for 2 weeks, the lockdown on the city could be removed. Another expert is warning of worrying signs in Wuhan. Chinese authorities have been reporting a dramatic drop in new infections in Wuhan since late February, but the accuracy of the data is in doubt. An internal document we obtained shows China's second most populous province in February consistently underreported cases of infections. On February 18th, Shandong reported 1 new infection, but an internal report by the Shandong CDC shows 52 tested positive. On February 21st, authorities report 2 new infections, while 59 tested positive. Starting by March 13th at least, Wuhan has seen new infections in outpatients. With the entire city under lockdown and residents not even allowed to get their own food, experts warn of danger. China's state mouthpiece quoted a doctor who didn't give his name. The doctor said, quote, "If the recent new infections are from quarantine centers or imported overseas, then it suggests that the outbreak in Wuhan has been contained." He said new infections keep emerging outside hospitals and quarantine centers, meaning there are prevention loopholes. The expert said there might be sources of infection that haven't been found. It concerns him greatly because it could lead to the next outbreak. Wuhan Health Commission Vice President Zhang Yun says outbreak control in the city remains a challenge. He said the infected outpatients have been outside their residential neighborhood and warned that there is a risk of community spread. Reporting by Juliet Song, NTD News, New York.
The Trump administration is stepping up its efforts to protect the country against the rapidly spreading coronavirus. President Trump has decided to invoke an act not seen since the Korean War to combat the disease.
President Donald Trump is looking to ramp up production of hospital masks, ventilators, and respirators, and he's bringing back a wartime measure to do it. The move will also help expand hospital capacity.
It's the invisible enemy. That's always the toughest enemy, the invisible enemy, but we're going to defeat the invisible enemy.
The Defense Production Act allows the president to direct private companies to help meet urgent national security needs. Adding to President Trump's statement, Defense Secretary Mark Esper said the military would provide over 5 million respirators from its own reserves. He added that 1 million masks would be available immediately. Esper also said that field hospitals were ready for deployment if they're needed. That includes 2 Navy hospital ships, one headed for the epicenter in New York City, the other to the West Coast. Leading the virus task force, Vice President Mike Pence said that soon doctors will be able to reach more patients.
HHS is issuing a regulation today that will allow all doctors and medical professionals to practice across state lines to meet the needs of hospitals that may arise in adjoining areas.
President Trump also noted the Housing and Urban Development Department will suspend foreclosures and evictions through April. This as more and more Americans face job losses. The actions come as the U.S. mutually closes its border with its northern neighbor.
The president, as you all are aware, also announced today that by mutual consent, the northern border to Canada will be closed to non-essential travel. This does not include essential travel or the transit of goods.
Trump likened the efforts to the measures taken during World War II, saying it would require national sacrifice.
And as China faces its second outbreak, the U.S. is preparing for its first. The virus has killed over 100 people in the country, but a California lab is making progress on a vaccine. It hopes to start clinical trials next month.
From coast to coast, Americans are finding new ways to adapt to life amid the coronavirus outbreak. This as the virus has now killed over 100 people in the U.S. In California, a laboratory is working with Duke University and the National University of Singapore to develop a vaccine.
One of the unique aspects of our technology is that it has the potential to be a single-shot vaccine.
Instead of injecting a dead virus, their method is to build the red spike seen on the virus inside the body. That way, the body can build up an immunity to them. On the East Coast, spring breakers in Miami are still enjoying themselves despite beaches, gyms, movie theaters, and restaurants shuttering. The closures aim to discourage gatherings of 10 or more people, but some say the measures have gone too far.
What is there to do here other than go to the bars or the beach, and they're closing all of it? It's really messing. I think they're blowing it way out of proportion.
And in the Midwest, Chicago's Shedd Aquarium is also closed to the public, but animal care staff are still working around the clock. Without any guests, it's a great time to take the penguins on a long-awaited field trip, and they've earned it.
New York State now has the highest number of cases of people infected with the CCP coronavirus in the nation. The number almost double that of Washington, which has the second highest number of cases. State Governor Andrew Cuomo gave updates about how the state is handling priorities like hospital capacity and having less people out and about to mitigate the spread.
Hospital ship U.S. Comfort is coming to New York in the future weeks, Governor Andrew Cuomo announced Wednesday. The move comes after President Trump agreed to dispatch the ship.
But the president and I agreed yesterday, look, we're fighting the same war, and this is a war, and we're in the same trench. And I have your back, you have my back, and we're going to do everything we can for the people of the state of New York.
But the ship won't be here for weeks. Pentagon spokesman Jonathan Hoffman told reporters that it is currently getting repairs in Virginia. With 12 operating rooms and 1,000 hospital beds, it will increase the state's hospital capacity to treat infected COVID-19 patients. And to slow the spread of the coronavirus, Governor Cuomo mandated that companies must have at least 50% of their employees working at home. That doesn't include essential services like food, healthcare, and transportation. But he says not to worry, despite the rumors.
I'm going to be quarantined. I'm going to be locked out. They're not going to allow me to leave my house. I better stock up on groceries. That's not going to happen.
He continued, saying a shelter-in-place mandate for New York City wouldn't stop the spread of the virus because people would find ways to get around the restrictions by going to other cities or states. Melina Weiskup, NTD News.
As the number of cases continues to grow, Governor Cuomo reminds people not to get carried away by emotion or disconnected from the reality of the situation. And while all agencies are preparing for the worst, the FDA says there's no need to empty shelves at grocery stores. The agency insists there are no nationwide food shortages. It says Americans should only buy enough food to last a week, adding that if certain items are low, they'll be restocked soon. To help, the FDA is making it easier for suppliers to get food and drink approved. They'll use faster methods to make sure products are safe. Regulators have also lifted restrictions on trucking to help keep merchandise moving. The Trump administration's economic stimulus package may be laid out to Senate Republicans today. And since the virus affects the respiratory system, the Pentagon is preparing thousands of ventilators and masks. The equipment is designed for soldiers but will be repurposed for civilian use.
U.S. Defense Secretary Mark Esper said Tuesday the Pentagon will provide 5 million respirator masks and 2,000 specialized ventilators to federal health authorities.
As circumstances evolve over the coming days and weeks, we will continue to take every necessary precaution to protect our forces, to safeguard our national security capabilities, and to support the President's whole-of-government fight against this virus.
Esper said the ventilators are designed to be used by troops. The first million respirator masks will be made available immediately. Esper said the military will need to train civilians on how to use them.
We'd have to do a train the trainer, if you will, maybe provide some people to make sure that the civilians who would use them know how to use them properly. They're unique in terms of deployability. They got single-use functions in some cases, so they are different than what you would find on the civilian end because they're meant to be deployable.
Esper also said he asked the Navy to prepare hospital ships for deployment. He said the Pentagon will talk with state and local leaders to see if there is any need for field hospitals. These measures would take the pressure off local hospitals.
And in other news, public schools in New York City are closed for at least a month. This family put on their thinking caps on and hit the books anyway, this time from the comfort of their own home. NTD's Kevin Hogan has the story.
This little girl wants to be a 5th grade teacher when she grows up, and right now she's studying hard at home because school's out. From history to science, she has a full lesson plan thanks to her mom.
We checked some books out of the library before it closed down, so we have some extra reading material on hand, so we should be okay.
New York City's mayor closed all public schools Monday to curb the spread of the Wuhan virus as more cases pop up in the tri-state area. But that hasn't stopped the learning in this household.
Oh, no pop quizzes as of yet.
Except for me. It was a lucky guess. From flashcards to morning meetings. And let's not forget recess. This aspiring teacher has a student mentality, but sometimes she likes to run the show.
She may think that she is also one of the teachers in this homeschool, so we'll see. I'll let her think that as long as it serves my purpose.
This duo gets to spend some quality time together on their hiatus, while Samantha, a momtrepreneur who owns a children's playdate place on the Upper East Side, waits for business to pick back up.
And we'll probably do another deep clean while it's closed anyway, and hope that everybody comes back and supports their local small businesses very soon.
A long day of learning sure makes you hungry, so let's not forget lunchtime. What's on today's menu? That's right, homemade pumpkin bread. Kevin Hogan, NTD News, New York.
A top Republican in the upper chamber says the Senate is set to pass the coronavirus bill without any changes. The bill was cleared by the House on Monday.
Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell says his chamber won't waste any time in voting on the latest coronavirus aid package.
We're going to go on and vote as soon as the Senate can get permission to vote on the bill that came over from the House.
After it's confirmed by the Senate, the bill will quickly be sent to the president's desk for signing. McConnell emphasized that Congress can work quickly and on a bipartisan basis. But he also addressed concerns from Republicans who hold the Senate majority and don't like certain parts of the bill.
My counsel to them is to gag and vote for it anyway, even if they think it has some shortcomings, and to address those shortcomings in the bill that we're in the process of crafting.
The House's $100 billion package includes sick pay, emergency food, and virus testing. In addition, President Trump wants checks sent to the public within 2 weeks as part of a package that officials said could approach a cost of $1 trillion. The White House proposal also aims to provide a massive tax cut for wage earners, $50 billion for the airline industry, and $250 billion for small businesses. Meanwhile, Senate Democrats produced their own $750 billion package, which includes $400 billion to bolster hospitals and $350 billion to strengthen American safety net with unemployment checks and other aid. The legislation would be bigger than the 2008 bank bailout or the 2009 Recovery Act. McConnell says the Senate won't adjourn until it's passed.
And countries around the globe continue taking new measures to help stop the spread of the virus. Here's the latest from around the world.
Australia's Prime Minister declared a national emergency on Wednesday. He suggested that the country's citizens should abandon all travel and banned all non-essential indoor gatherings of more than 100 people. The nation has also seen its fair share of panic buying, with supermarket shelves stripped of essentials like toilet paper and pasta. Prime Minister Scott Morrison issued blunt advice on Wednesday, saying the hoarding was unnecessary and counterproductive.
It's not sensible, it's not helpful, and I've got to say it's been one of the most disappointing things I've seen in Australian behaviour in response to this crisis.
In Taiwan, students at an elementary school have found their own unique way to fight the coronavirus with an automated disinfectant dispenser built from Lego. Children ranging from as young as 6 to 12 years use every chance they can get to line up and use their self-built alcohol disinfectant robot. Taiwan has only recorded about 100 cases of the coronavirus compared to the thousands upon thousands in neighboring China. The autonomous island is on high alert to prevent further infections. While in Italy, the virus is forcing people to stay at home, the deadly pandemic is having some unexpected side effects. Venice canals, usually full of tourists in gondolas and motorboats, now empty.
There are no boats. There's no traffic. It's definitely cleaner.
And in Paris, the sound of birds chirping, the only noticeable sounds. Parisians understand the measures and try to reorganize their daily routine.
So I need to set myself some kind of timetable to start doing the things we don't usually do, such as sort out my photographs. I've been meaning to sort out my photographs for months, so I'll do that.
Now to the UK. Big changes this week as Prime Minister Boris Johnson's government called on people to avoid all non-essential contact. Today, he announced UK schools will be closed from Friday on. Jane Worrell reports from London.
The usually bustling streets in London have fewer people, and in the latest effort to curb the spread of this CCP virus, commonly known as the coronavirus, the British Prime Minister says UK schools will close their doors.
They will remain closed for most pupils, for the vast majority of pupils, until further notice.
Schools will need to make plans to look after the children of critical workers, which includes social workers, the police, and supermarket delivery drivers. London is the worst affected area in the UK.
In my mind, it's like a tsunami kind of coming in. We don't know when it's going to hit. Some people have been taken out already, so to speak, but we don't know how long it's going to go on for. And that's what's really unsettling.
People are preparing for uncertain times.
My contract just ran out, so I am actually unemployed looking for work. So I'm doing a lot of interviews over Skype.
Johnson this week urged people to stay at home, avoid offices and pubs, and only make essential trips outside. He said on Wednesday that he won't rule out tougher measures.
Parliament here remains open, but earlier politicians who didn't have a scheduled question for the Prime Minister were told to stay away.
Attendance today is significantly below the normal numbers.
Johnson said he will step up testing and also support workers at this time of pandemic.
We will be bringing forward further measures to ensure that every worker receives support throughout this difficult period.
The latest figures from the UK on Wednesday found 2,626 people tested positive, while 103 people have died. Jane Worrell, NTG News, London.
Here at China in Focus, we bring you first-hand information from inside China. Don't forget to subscribe for the latest updates.